welcome back.
Hello.
Mrs. Berry's here. You cannot see them, but Mrs. Dunn is here, and Mrs. Ash
I
Craft.
see them.
Yay! We miss you very, very much. So we're decided to make today, since today is Friday, kind of a little bit different activity, as you can see. So yes, we are doing math, but look at all the crazy things we have up here.
I bet you wish you were here now.
Yeah, because look, it's food involved. So we're gonna do a little cooking today, and you're gonna watch, and you're gonna answer some questions for us, and then we've got a challenge for you at the very end. All right, but even though we've got food here, we still have our learning target. We're still working on fractions. If you remember, you know what it is, I hope. Remember? I can add fractions and mix numbers with like denominators. I know you know what a fraction is, okay? We've talked a lot about it. It's part of a whole. Here today, we're gonna focus on a whole of something, a whole cup. All right, because if you look over here, we've got a recipe. Today we're gonna make mixed up snacks.
Mixed up
Yay!
snacks.
I have to tell you about mixed up snacks. This was Ava's favorite snack when she was little. It didn't matter what was in the bag. As long as there were like 4 or 5 different foods and they were all mixed up in a bag, we just started calling them mixed up snacks. It really could be anything. So Mrs. Berry and I decided we are going to put in our favorites in this bowl, make a mixed up snack. All right, but we're going to do it while we're talking about fractions and mixed numbers. Okay? So this is our whole cup. It could be a whole cup of whatever. But if it's a fraction, then it's just part. It might be half of a cup, which would mean that I take what's in here and I divide it into 2 parts, 2 equal parts. It could be a fourth of a cup. I take what's in here and make 4 equal parts. Same idea. Now, it might be a little different and a little new to you is mixed numbers. So Mrs. Berry's going to talk about what these mixed numbers mean.
Okay, so mixed numbers. We talked about this the other day a little bit, but you have a whole number here with a fraction. So when we add these together for right now, we're just going to focus on the whole numbers first. Now there's going to get to a point where there will be some regrouping, but not today, so we're not worried about that. We're just going to think about the whole and then the fraction kind of being separate, and then we're putting them together. So if we want to figure out how much it's going to be in this bowl when we have goldfish and pretzels, if we want to add those 2 up, normally you're used to adding fractions like this. So if we did 1/2, which is really 2/4, right? Plus 1/4. Think about that for a minute. This is some review. So think about what we would do here. If we have, this is our 1/2. We want to have the same denominator, so we switched our 1/2 to 2/4. What would we do here to add these together? Think about it. Hopefully you're thinking right now, our denominator stays the same because we are still in fourths. We are not changing these to eighths. We're still looking at fourths as far as our pieces and our size. So 4 stays the same, and then we add our parts together. So our numerator, 2 plus 1 is 3. So if we're trying to add 1 and 1/2 plus 2 and 1/4, we know that our fraction part, this and this, is 3/4. And these 2 are wholes. They're whole numbers like you've been used to adding your whole entire life. It's just 1 plus 2. That's 1 plus 2. Do I need to give you time to think about that, or do you know that right now? Miss Dunn knows it. What is it?
3!
3. So we put this with it. Notice how we talked about this the other day too. Your whole number is going to be larger than your fractions because it gets really confusing if you do this. It looks like 33/4, and that's not the fraction, right? So we need to make sure our whole number is nice and big because it's a whole number and not a part. We're going to put that with it. So 3 3/4. So if we combine the 2 of these together, it's going to be 3 3/4 of a cup. So 3 whole cups and then part of a 4th cup. This is part. And if you look at that, 3/4, we're almost to 4 cups there, right? Because it's only one little part away from 4 whole cups.
All right, so let's do it. Are you ready?
I think we're ready.
All right, so the first ingredient on our recipe is goldfish. So we're going to take our goldfish, And we're gonna do 1 whole cup, and then we're gonna do a half a cup. All right, so open up the goldfish, the yummy, delicious goldfish.
1 cup, this is our whole.
I used to love to smell the bag first.
Oh, show us the smell bag. Little
Okay,
known
ready?
fact about Mrs. Dunlap.
Whole cup.
She's a bag
Whole
snorer.
cup. So here we go. 1 whole cup of goldfish.
Yep. 1 whole cup.
There it goes.
Oh,
it's okay if you have a little bit of mess, it's all right.
It's okay. All right.
Gordon.
Okay, I know some of you are going, that was satisfying. Okay, and then we have to find our half of a cup.
Which actually
Oh, it's just not that one.
this does not have a handle. Nothing to be
Concerned
nervous
about.
I'm not nervous.
Now,
All right.
before she does this, how many of these would fit in like this?
Oh,
What do you
that's a
think?
good
If we
question.
took our goldfish and we put them in here, how many of these would it take, our 1/2 cups, to fit in the whole cup? Do you know?
I think.
Yes?
Oh, Miss Ashcraft knows.
Mrs. Ashcraft, come on up here and tell us what is the answer.
How many?
I think 2 of these would fit in one of those.
I think she's right, and I think you know she's right, because 2 halves is equal to 1 whole. But right now, we only need a half.
We only
cup
need a
more,
half,
so
so
we're
here
not
we go.
gonna, we're not gonna make 2.
we
That
go.
was just a little bonus question in there.
Bonus question.
Oh.
There we go.
Okay. Doesn't matter if we go a little over, no, it's okay. But as you can see, we have 1/2 cup of goldfish for a total of 1 and 1/2 cups of goldfish. We are finished with goldfish, and look what we have right now. A bowl full of goldfish. They're gonna be joined by a lot of other little yummy snacks here in a minute.
Pretzels.
Pretzels. Oh, another salty snack.
All right, so now we're going to look at our mixed number. Our mixed number is a whole number and a fraction together. So our whole number is 2. So we're going to do 2 whole cups. And then our fraction is 1/4 of a cup. Another way you might hear that said is a quarter of a cup. So in recipes, a lot of times you'll hear a quarter of a cup instead of 1/4. Think about it. It's just like quarters. When you need 4 quarters to make $1, 1/4 is 1/4. So it's just a different way of saying it.
Or a quarter after is 15 after. So that's 1/4 of the way around the clock. I'm gonna
Okay,
throw it all in here.
so we got pretzel sticks.
That's
They might
fine.
stick out a
That's
little
fine by
bit.
me.
Ready?
All right,
Okay.
so we're doing 2
It was
whole
Slim
cups.
Pickens at Kroger.
2 whole cups. All right. I didn't know we'd make this much of a mess doing this.
Nope. Well,
It's all right.
Mr. Dunlap always says I'm a messy cook. So. All right,
There's 1 cup.
1 cup. Here comes another cup.
2 whole cups. This is our-
2 whole cups.
Ah, looks
All
good.
right.
Okay. Shake it around a little bit, make sure. Yep.
So that was our 2 wholes. Now we have to do 1/4 or a quarter.
So bonus question again. The quarter cup or 1/4. I would have to fill this how many times to equal the 1 cup? Think about it for a minute. How many times would I have to fill my 1/4 cup to make a whole? So hint, how many fourths are in 1 whole? How many fourths are in 1 whole? Everyone.
Think about it.
Say it together. Ready?
4!
Got it. I'm gonna need 1 cup, 1/4 of the cup, which is gonna be hard with these little pretzels. So we'll try it.
Here.
I got it.
Okay.
All right, there we go. 1/4 cup to make 3 3/4 cup total. That's what that would look like. So hopefully if I pour this back in, I would be able to measure 3 3/4 of a cup, almost 4 cups. And that's what it looks like. We haven't mixed it yet.
All right, so our next part of our recipe are oyster crackers. You know what oyster crackers are? Those are those cute little crackers that you sometimes put on your tomato soup. They're really tiny.
Skyline.
Oh, Skyline. So we don't go to Skyline.
See, there you go.
There you
Underrated
go.
snack for
Skyline. There you go. So we need 2 1/4 cups of oyster crackers. So what is my whole number? 2. What is my fraction? 1/4. So we're putting them together, so we're going to need 2 1/4 cups of oyster crackers. Are you ready?
Yes. And while she's doing this, I want you to think about how many total cups we have in this mix after we add our oyster crackers.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Hmm.
That's a really good
We're
question.
gonna figure that out in a minute, but let's
All
get
right,
these
here you
oyster
go.
crackers
Ready?
in first. 2 It is satisfying.
It is satisfying.
Two whole cups and 1/4 more. So there's my 1/4. And there we go.
There we go.
So the question I asked you earlier is how many total cups is in this right now? Think about what we would do. I wish you were all out there right now because I have a feeling we have all kinds of hands up knowing what to do on this one. But since you're not here, you're going to have to think about it at home and we're going to have to show you right now. So if we know that we had 3 3/4 before, we already added that up. So we know that with the goldfish and the pretzels, we had 3 whole cups and then another 3/4 of a cup. But now we've added oyster crackers in. So we have a whole nother amount. So now we have 2 more cups. I hope that bowl is big enough. This is getting a lot, isn't it? Plus 2 1/4. So right now, for how we're doing this right now, let's just focus on our whole number first, or our fraction first. It really doesn't matter because we're not regrouping yet. So let's think about this. Our whole numbers, 3 plus 2. I know you're all probably thinking, of course we know what that is. What is 3 plus 2? Everyone! 5! 5 is our whole number. Notice how it's nice and big and standing tall because it's not a fraction. It's not a part. It's a whole. So we have 5 whole cups. That would be 5 whole of these cups. So now let's add our fraction. This is going to come out very crazy. So you're going to have to think about this. So we're still dealing in fourths. We haven't changed that. So our denominator is not going to change. It stays the same because we're still talking about fourths. So fourth is our denominator. How many parts of the fourth did we have? 3 plus 1. Oh my goodness. That looks like a crazy fraction. So what happens now? Think about that for a minute. What happens now? Should we leave this like this, do you think? What do you know about 4/4? Oh, I can feel that you guys know this. I can feel it right now through this camera that you know this. You're thinking 4/4 is equal to what? 1 whole! That's right. So we have 5 whole, and along the side here, we've actually ended up with another whole because we have 4/4, and that fraction is equal to 1 whole. So what happens here? I bet you're thinking about it. 5 whole plus 1 whole is what? 6. Is there a fraction with it? No, because that fraction is 1 whole. So 5 4/4 is actually equal to the whole number 6. That's cool, isn't it? I like that.
Love it.
Yeah. So we actually have, if we were to go and do this and measure these out into another bowl, I should be able to get 6 cups out of here because that's what I put in. I didn't put 6 cups in at the beginning. I did it with fractional parts, but it ended up being 6 whole cups. So that's what this is. Oh, but guess what? Now we have one of my favorites, M&M's. But this is in the dishwasher. We don't have this. How are we going to do that without our 1 cup, Mrs. Dunlap? Do you have any ideas? I mean, we need 1 3/4 cup of M&M's.
I could just.
No,
Pour
you're
them
not.
all in?
No, we're not just pouring them all in.
Please, I really like M&Ms.
I know you do.
Oh, Mrs. Dunn wants some.
What should we do? We only have a 4th cup available. We have a 1/3 of a cup available. And we have a 1/2 of a cup available. Well, we need 1 3/4 cups.
I'll give you a hint. Think about what we talked about earlier in the week with the decomposing of the fractions. You can decompose whole numbers as well. So stop and think for a minute. How could you decompose this 1 so that we could use what we have here to still come up with 1 whole? We still need the 1 whole. We just have to come up with a different way to do it. All right? So we're going to give you time to think. Hit us, pause us, and then we'll be right back. about it. Mrs. Berry's going to show you one way that you can decompose these fractions
Okay,
and whole
so,
numbers.
so since we have fourths, we could go with that fourth cup the whole entire time to add all of this. So we have to think about how many fourth cups we're going to need. And then the second thing, which actually I sometimes fail at home, is remembering how many times I put this fourth cup in. So you have to keep count of that, or else you'll end up saying, how many cups do I have in there? Which wouldn't matter on this recipe, but it matters on other recipes, so keep that in mind. So if I know that I'm dealing in fourths, think about how many fourths would be in one whole. So we know that 4 fourths is one whole. So I'm going to need 4 fourths plus 3 fourths. So how many of these am I going to need to put in? 3 fourths and 4 fourths. So I could do this a couple of ways. I could either separate it and think, I'm going to do my whole first. I'm going to do 4 fourths first, and then I'm going to do 3 fourths. Or I could just say 4 plus 3 is what? Good. So we talked about a fourth, and we're going to add fourths to make this whole entire amount. So the whole is 4 fourths. So let's take our M&Ms. Oh, they look yummy. Count with me. 1, 2, 3 fourths, and 4 fourths.
4 fourths.
One whole. That's right. So we have 1 cup in here. So what I just did is equivalent to this. The 4 fourths equivalent to 1 whole cup. But I'm not finished yet
Not
because
done
we
yet.
want more chocolatey goodness. So now I have 3 fourths to add. That's almost another whole cup. It's only short 1 little 4th cup. That's it. So let's do it. We're not going to put 4 fourths in this time. We're putting how many? 3 fourths. 1, 2, 3. For a total of 1 whole and 3 fourths. So we call that 1 and 3 fourths cup.
But I want you to look at how it could also be written, because there's more than one way to write this, okay? So we said that 4 fourths is the same as 1 whole, but we still needed the 3 fourths. So if you were counting with us, did you count how many fourths we needed to put in there?
That's true.
How many did we need? Altogether, we needed 7. Ms. Berry took out the 4th of a cup, and she used it 7 times. She put 7 of those in. So I want you to look at this. Does that look like a funny fraction to you? It should.
Ooh, it looks a little different than the ones we've seen, for sure.
How's it different? Well, look at this numerator. The numerator is bigger than the denominator. We've got more than a whole. This thing right here is called, are you ready? New math word, improper fraction. They're not proper.
Yeah, not proper at all.
These are proper.
Yeah.
These are written the way they should be written. 1 fourth, 3 fourths, 3 fourths, because the 3 is smaller than the denominator. All right, those are proper. These are improper fractions, okay? And sometimes you need an improper fraction, and we'll get to that later on when you would use an improper fraction. But what I want you to know right now is that an improper fraction has a whole number in there, at least 1 whole number in there, that you're going to have to pull out of it eventually. And we'll talk more about that. What I want you to know for today is that this is an improper fraction, and that means that there's a whole number in there somewhere. Because 7 fourths and 1 and 3 fourths, that's the same amount, just written in 2 different ways. Improper fraction, mixed number. All right, okay, so we had 1 and 3 fourths cup of delicious M&Ms. And Mrs. Berry's very happy because there's still some M&Ms left in the bag and she's not sharing. We're gonna go to our next recipe, or our next ingredient, 1 cup of peanuts. This is my favorite.
So we're gonna
Right
bring our
here.
cup back.
Just gonna let me just do the cup.
I am. It'll be nice this time.
You ready? This is my favorite
1
part.
cup of peanuts.
There you go. Look at that.
There we go.
Deliciousness. Okay. We have 2 ingredients left. 1 3 fourths cup of chocolate chips.
Oh, this sounds good too.
And 2 and 2/4 cups of rice checks. So here's what you're going to do for me. You're going to get a piece of scrap paper, and you are going to pause us and figure out if we were to add this mixed number and this mixed number, how much would we be adding into our bowl? So let me say it again. You're going to pause me in just a second. You've got scrap paper handy, okay? I want you to add, tell me how much am I putting into the bowl? 1 3/4 cup of chocolate chips, 2 2/4 cups of rice checks. Are you ready? Pause us. Go. All right, were you able to figure it out? Let's go ahead and figure it out before we add in our yummy goodness. Okay? So we've got 1 3/4. Did you see how my whole number is as big as my fraction when I write it? Okay, same size. 2 2/4. Now I like to write mine this way. That's just the way I like to do it.
Either way is fine.
Okay, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
She likes hers horizontally. I like mine vertically. We're both right. So here's what we're gonna do. We can add our fractions first. Watch what happens though. 3/4 plus 2/4. Okay, we've talked a lot about this. You know it's still gonna be fourths. We're still taking 4 parts. We're still working with the same whole. Oh, look what happens. 3/4 plus 2/4 equals 5/4. Interesting. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a second. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Now, we just talked about what this is called. It's weird. Your numerator is bigger than your denominator, so this is an improper fraction. We need to make it proper. How can we do that? What did I just tell you? An improper fraction has what inside of it that you have to pull out and figure it out? It's got a whole number in there, or a mixed number in there. You gotta pull that out. So this is where your decomposing comes in. Let's decompose this. All right? We have 5/4. Let's just write 5/4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are my 5/4. Now watch this. You know that 4 of them is going to equal 1 whole. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 equals 1 whole. I still have 1/4 left. So 5/4 is the same as 1 and 1/4. Are you with me? So 5/4 is 1 and 1/4. If I add that on to my 3, all together, I have 4 and 1/4. So if I add 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips and 2 2/4 cups of rice checks together, I'm adding 4 1/4 cups of yummy goodness. Are you with me?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's add 1 3/4 cups of chocolate chips.
1 3/4 cup. 1 whole. Okay. And then 3/4 cup. Here's a fourth. 1, 2, 3. That's almost all the chocolate chips.
Right. And then we're going to add 2, that's our whole number, 2, and our fraction 2/4. So 2 cups first. 1, 2.
And
Now we have to do 2/4.
oh, 2/4. But I know that 2/4 is the same thing as 1/2. So we would only have to do one. We could just do one of these instead of the 2 1/4. So we'll do that.
A little easier.
1/2 and 2/4 are the exact same thing. And there we go.
Alrighty then, so now you have to mix it up. But I forgot a spoon.
Oh, I bet we can use one of these. I have a spoon. What do you
Okay,
think?
good. So it's not, if it's a mixed up snack, it's not, yeah. I feel like the Muppets.
If you can see this, I don't think you can.
No, look how
It's getting
lovely it is, look how
really,
pretty it
really
is. the
fancy looking.
different colors.
Delicious. Perfect little snack. I understand Ava's love for this now.
Ava loves it. In fact, last night she's asked me, do I get some, Mommy? Do I get to eat some? Will you bring some home for me?
Okay.
So, then you just scoop it, you put it in a bowl or a bag, and you eat it and you have fun. Ta-da! So here's what you're gonna do now for me. You're gonna actually do an exit slip. Okay, it's just super easy. You're gonna click on the exit slip and you will need to tell us one thing that you learned today, not about the yummy goodness, but about mixed numbers and fractions. All right, so anything you can add to it. So you're gonna do the exit slip. And then we have a challenge for you.
Oh, I can't wait for this one.
I know, this is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So Mrs. Ashcraft helped us come up with this really great idea. So here's what we want you to do. I have posted, if you scroll down, it says recipe Mrs. Dunlap used or something like that. And if you click on it, a Google Doc's gonna come up with this recipe. And the reason I did that is I thought it might be something fun for you all to do at home, because you're kind of stuck at home for a lot right now. However, if you go to your pantry or where Mom or Dad keeps all the food and you're like, but we don't have goldfish, we don't have pretzels, please do me a favor. Please do not yell at your parents and tell them you have to go to Kroger today and buy these items, because they'll look at you and say, no.
Double no.
Yeah, we aren't going there. It's a crazy place right now. So here's what you're going to do instead. This is our challenge. This is optional. You don't have to do it, but this is our challenge. You come up with an idea for a mixed up snack with things in your house. You come up with a recipe that your friends could make using things that you already have. Now, before you do this, please get permission from your parents first. Don't just go start grabbing things and just mixing them. We need a recipe. So we need how much you're going to use and your ingredients. And you're going to go into that same Google document. You're going to go down. You'll see mine. And I will make it so that anybody can add to it. So please, if you're going to add to it, you need to make sure that you're adding an actual recipe. This isn't a place for you to say hi to your friends. Okay? You just add your recipe. Call it whatever you want. Make sure you put your name in there. All right? And then put your recipe. Now, if you want to take the project an extra step, you can video yourself making it just like we videoed us making this one. All right, send me the link and I will get it to your classmates. Okay, this is something you can do whenever. It doesn't have to be done today. There's no deadline. I'm not going to grade it. All right, this is just a project that if you want to work on it, we would love to see what you come up with. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, we love you. We hope you had fun today. We had a blast.